episode that's considered one of the most controversial in television history. Do you recall reading the script? What was it like filming it? Did you have any clue when you were getting into it that it was going to be as crazy as it was?
I remember getting my script and going to Pizzeria Uno, which was a wonderful Chicago chain out here. Deep dish pizza. No longer. Californians don't seem to like deep dish pizza. What can I tell you? I can send away to Lou somebody in Chicago, and I went down. I've got three more in my freezer right now. I thought, shall we have a deep dish pizza tonight? We got 5 minutes of it. It's too complicated. All right, don't burden yourself. I went to Pizzeria Uno and ordered a pizza, and as I sat there waiting for it, I read my script. And the hostess got my attention after a while, and she said, "Are you okay?" Uh, and apparently, I was trying to think, oh, oh God, no. The pros and the plight of Andy Taylor was speaking to me, and I was expressing it verbally out loud. I had no idea. But Glenn and Jim have such wonderfully twisted sensibilities. They are my godfathers in this business. They have been the most generous, the most kindest creators that I've known in my 50 years in this business. And I'm so pleased to have connected with them. They've written some of the most wonderful roles and created some of the most memorable experiences for me, and I will always be grateful to them for that. It was, you know, I don't know if you've ever seen the script. It's pretty appalling, and I remember flying from the Vancouver. Think I think it may have been the first time I went to Vancouver. I'm trying to remember where we did Babylon 5. I think it was probably here in LA. Anyway, it was one of the first times I'd been to Vancouver. And the first day, on set, it was interesting because I met David and Blocking,
Jillian.
Cillian in the trailer, and they were warm. But they were doing, I think, had just come back from an East Coast foray doing publicity for the show, and they were shooting pickups from the last episode and previews for the next episode, and then they hadn't even looked at Arts, the one I was going to be shooting. I realized, God damn! And you read stories in TV Guide about this series actor said, no, I'm not coming back for another season. And you really, it's hard to imagine what the fuck are you talking about? You're not coming back. You're getting $2 billion an episode, and you're famous, but it's hard to appreciate the grind unless you're in the middle of that fray. And it really does take a lot out of people. There are all the accoutrements and rewards in the world, but the reality of it is stressful and taxing and grinding. I can compare it to having done a Cormac McCarthy play a few years ago, and I had done it. I had a run from November to May, and it was brilliant, and everyone was in love with it, and the critics went berserk. And then a couple of years later, Joe Spano said, "I want to bring it back to Rubicon up here in Oxnard, Ventura. Would you come up and perform, Tucker?" I said, "Yeah." It's the role of my life. It's the most challenging, demanding role I have ever essayed on stage, and it was the role that Stella and Sandy trained me to do. And to get to do it in my 50s and 60s, and to do it well, was very, very, inexpressibly satisfying. However, when I've been doing it here in Los Angeles at Road Machine, it was one performance a night. And it was like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, maybe Monday, that's it. Um, Rubicon was it's like a Broadway contract. And it was like 2 shows on Wednesday and 2 shows on Saturday. And it, as I said, is the most, it's a, it's a one, it's a one-act play. I never leave the stage. There's 120 pages of dialogue, and 90 of them are mine. It's a real spectacle, and I loved it. As I said, it's unexpressibly satisfying have done the work of my life and have been acknowledged for it. But by the time we got midway through the run, I could eat and sleep and perform, and that's it. I had nothing else. And I didn't try to do anything else. I didn't get laid. I didn't get drunk. I didn't go out. I just went to fucking bed and performed. So that's what series. That's what gives you a sense of what it is to be in a series like the X Files. So we met each other in the trailer, and they decided they were going to shoot my death scene that first night. And I remember going upstairs. Uh, stuntmen get paid for a reason. I'm a paratrooper. I'm physical. I do this. I'll jump out of an airplane or whatever. But there's a reason they have stuntmen. And that night, I learned a very important lesson. This is back in the 90s. The stuntmen, they didn't fucking do the stunts. Okay? The Peacock Boys are throwing me around, like a top. And I remember one time I went flying and I didn't tuck my head. In other words, when you go land on your back, put your chin down. Mm-hmm. I didn't put my chin down, and my head went back and hit the concrete floor. And I just lay there kind of stunned. And I said, guys, when you shoot my POV, defocus the camera because I'm seeing 2 or 3 of everything right now. I think at one point the camera dolly rolled over my bare feet. It was a real experience. It was very physical. I had a wonderful time. And laying there in this a warm pool of sticky blood. Have you seen the picture of Sheriff Andy Taylor? I'll send it to you, okay?
Yeah, please.
Right, of him laying in his pool of blood. So what happened was the DP, the director of photography, was let go. Chris said, you did wonderful work. Everything, the values were there, but the bad guys looked like it was Shirley Temple or something. There was too much light. He wasn't comfortable shooting as dark as it needs to be, so your imagination takes over. And there was a moment when people who had seen the show said, God, I see your brains slamming. And what had happened was my hand, as I surrendered life, my hand fell back into a pool of blood. And there was a spatter. But when it's that dark, you can't really tell what you're seeing. And that's the point. So none of that footage was in the episode that I shot that first night. I had to stay in Vancouver for an extra week because they had to catch up on other stuff so they could come back and shoot my death scene. So I had a wonderful time. I like Vancouver very much. And look forward to going back one of these days. I haven't been in a while. But that's what happened that very first day. And as I say, I can remember walking the streets of Vancouver, and this fellow calls out to me from another corner. I'm in Vancouver, Christ, Tucker! And I look at him and I don't recognize him. He's a big, good-looking guy, So I walk over and say hi. He's one of the Peacock brothers. Now these were big men. These are 6'3", 6'4". They were really physically big men, and I had made a point of don't get to know them, don't be around them. I want to be able to use all of that imagination-wise because they're in their makeup. They're really scary people. And I just, I didn't need to have it. And so I said, do yourself a favor. These are bad guys. Use what your opportunity has. But it was so funny. I mean, he's this nice looking guy chatting away with me on the street. I realized, oh yeah, these are the guys that killed me. Yeah, okay, I get it now. I remember now. I really enjoyed Vancouver. I love the crew. My wife, all of the decisions, about to gun or not to gun. I said, next time I'll bring my gun to town, boy. That would have been my inclination, but I like the nobility of that. I'd rather just not be that kind of guy. I don't want this to be that kind of town. Okay? So.
That's crazy. Yeah, so those guys, the three Peacock Boys, they, I believe, Lord and I knew, they were all stuntmen, right? They were cast
I'm
as
not sure if they were
stuntmen.
stuntmen, they were physically large actors. I don't know if they were stuntmen per se. I think they were aspiring actors.
They were okay. One of them I know was a stuntman for sure. The one that was dating Gillian
I
Anderson.
can't remember, but my feeling was not so much that they've been chosen for that as Vancouver has a resident body of performers that are finding a great deal of work because we had a lot of production up there then.
Right. The X Files was really the beginning of that.
It really was, yeah. I got to
Now
go
it's
back Millennium, and, was it a couple others? There was one. There was one. I shot. They wanted me for level 7, I think it was called. And it was a wonderful parallel. This was what's the director's name? He's got 3 names. He was somehow connected to me back in New York. He wanted me on a project, and I wasn't available. Anyway, I was playing the pilot of the 747 that had been taken over by terrorists. Now this is pre 9/11, okay? So I'm in this plane, and they've got it on gimbals and jacks and things, and planes all over the sky, when I'm trying to control the plane and everything. And somewhat later, a few months later, I did that, and then I went back to Cancun, where I had left my love. I had gone to Cancun with her, then flew from Cancun to Vancouver to shoot this. It's just gonna be a couple days, sweetheart. It'll pay for our whole trip. It kept me there till Wednesday. Oh, no. She was pissed. I had run up an unbelievable room tab, had eaten lobster every night, so I didn't get to eat lobster because I'm so tired of lobster. And then I came back and I went on to shoot a movie in Ohio. But before 9/11, I went to India to shoot a movie called um, Air Air Terror or something like that. And it was directed by the producer of Tombstone, one of the funniest men on earth. And it also Rodney was in it from Space Above and Beyond. And I'm sure Rodney's done an X-Files or two, right?
I'm not sure.
No, I thought
Sure.
all of us had been in one of them.
We're making our way through, everybody. We'll
Okay.
check.
Rodney was there, and you remember in Terminator, this beautiful, tall, blonde Swedish woman who was in the Loken, Christiana Loken. Well, Rod was dating Christiana, and so she was there, and we're shooting a movie about a 747, the terrorist takeover. But this time I'm the FAA supervisor. And in Vancouver, they had gimbals and machines and vacuums and pumps to move the plane over the air. In India, we had about 40 guys with ropes and poles shaking the goddamn cockpit.
Oh
so in America, we have technology. In India, we have manpower.
Not so much. Go figure.
2 separate projects, one on TV and one on film. And in the first 5 minutes of that movie, a 747 flies into a skyscraper in Denver. Okay, so they hadn't finished post-production before 9/11, and of course it went straight.
I was gonna say, yeah.
Nobody was gonna go see that. Yeah. But the point is that these are 2 separate projects, one for film, one for TV, that had the concept of terrorists taking over 747s or large jets and flying them into buildings.
A little scary,
right?
The
fight guys, clearly. And I mean, I only know it because I was involved in both.
That's scary.
I just thought that was really freaky when I thought about it. And of course, I lived across the street from the World Trade Center for 9 years. I went to the towers daily.
Yeah.
So it was crushing to me to see what happened there. It was just heartbreaking to me.
We were just talking about that yesterday. It's just, from a production standpoint, I was talking to a friend about it. It's scary. So on a happier note, what was your favorite memory from the show, from being on the show?
Of X-Files?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, as a matter of fact, I hadn't watched the X-Files prior to them writing that role for me. There was a lot of TV. I didn't watch TV like I did during the pandemic, but there have been a lot of times when I've become fans of a program that I hadn't watched before I was involved with it. I like the idea. I'm a sci-fi fan. I went to Area 51 in 1991. I watched things fly. I have spoken to Buzz Aldrin and Edgar Mitchell about anomalous things. I am a believer. I've seen them. So the X Files is about that, but in those days in the '90s, I was just shooting all the time, and my nights were other things rather than TV. I always loved movies, but I didn't watch, and I watch almost no network TV, almost none. It amazes me, but we have so many platforms.
Well, now, yeah, sure, for sure.
I mean, I started. I was in New York in the '70s. I had a show on ABC, a show on CBS, and a show on NBC every week. And that's in New York City, and those are the major three. So it's kind of absurd. Um, and today, God, I wouldn't be able to quantify how many outlets there are.
So many. It's insane. It's good for the pandemic.
Well,
Lauren, you want to grab the next one?
Sure. So you had said that you weren't a fan of the X-Files prior to being on the X-Files. Have you had a chance?
It's not that I didn't like it. I just wasn't going to watch it.
Yeah.
Right. I assume you've seen it since.
Yes, as I said, once I had done the show, I went back and caught up. I don't know that I haven't, binged it, but I've seen a great number of them, and I certainly was looking at the work that Jim and Glenn had written and created. Um, um, so I'm sorry, can you hear your question?
Oh, no, it's okay. The question is, we were going to ask you why you think the X-Files sort of stands the test of time. If you go to conventions, you see kids watching X-Files, you see people who weren't, alive during the initial run, they're big fans. And the people that Carly and I talk to, they're of all ages. They catch it on, different shows at night, reruns, they get interested. What do you think it is about the show that hooks people?
I learned how to read when I was 3. My big sister Angie taught me, and I gravitated to science fiction: Asimov, Bradbury, Heinlein, Van Gogh, Frederick, what's his name? Anyway, early days of TV, you had One Step Beyond and The Twilight Zone and whatnot. So there's always been that niche that appealed to people who like speculative fiction. And so the market was clearly there. We've seen in my lifetime at least, you've got God, Roswell, and everything. You got so much lore, and some of us who live outside of the huge population centers, who live where there's not so much light pollution, see shit. Shit happens, okay? I don't care whether you believe it or not. I know what I have seen. I'm an empiricist, and you couldn't convince me of what you've seen, okay? You couldn't. I'd say I'm sure you saw something, and I'm sure it was compelling, but I know what I have seen, and I trust my intuition and my perceptions and my truth. My truth may not be your truth. I think there are quite a few people who have a truth. And you can run into a great deal of static with people who don't share that, mindset. And so you may keep it privately, but there's plenty of literature and speculative fiction out there to satisfy all of those. I mean, what Art Baker, Art, what's his name, Bell. There's a reason that thing has such a following and has lasted for so many years. It's an outlet. It's a platform for people who do have anomalous experiences to share them and to express themselves. And I think some people know, some people yearn to know, some people would like to know. Some people are kind of intimidated by it. There's a whole range of possibilities. Um, but you know, if you're intellectually curious, why wouldn't you gravitate to that? We believe a lot sillier shit that is a whole lot less documented.
Interesting. So the last question we asked we've asked to all crew and cast members, and this is something we're overly anxious to hear everybody's response to. If you could say something to the fans of the X Files for the over the last 27 plus years, what would it be?
The truth is out there. It's that simple. Um, don't let other people intimidate you or try to dissuade you from finding your truth. I mean, you're only going to pass this way one time consciously. So, you know, get your money's worth.
That is awesome.
Thank you for inviting me, guys. It was lovely to meet you both. And good
Oh,
luck with the project.